because I have more access to information than maybe subsequent generations have. So I'd like to think my bullshit filters are a little bit better. So that's what I would say on it. But I think it's a mixed bag, same as it always has been. I don't know who to pass it on to. Does anybody want it?
I started in judo. I was 17. I was working under a former German national team, West German national team, and a former national champion here. And so it was strenuous. Anyone that says that judo is, something you can do until the end of your life was not training with these guys, because it was something that was designed for extremely fit, extremely masochistic, and probably stupid young men with unbelievable endurance. We had a running joke that you take out the entire Oregon State judo team if you just got us after practice, because we were wiped every day, and this would be 3 nights a week, 2 mornings a week, and 1 day a weekend. It was very, very physical and good strategy, and I was lucky to have instructors that believed that weight classes were an abomination before God, because they had completely changed the skills that you needed to take out a big man. In the old days, there were giant killers. There were little guys that specialized in taking out big men. With weight classes, everyone specializes in the same stuff because it works on people your size, and it just made it more strategic. Now I teach differently, not because there was anything wrong with that, but Wolfgang and Mike knew that they were teaching for competition, and they taught hard for competition. What I find is that most of the people that come to me have extensive experience in martial arts. They know how to move, and they're just starting to realize that they really don't know anything about violence. And so most of what I wind up teaching is mental, because the physical stuff is covered. A dancer can move well enough to hurt somebody. Anyone that knows how to move can move well enough to hurt somebody. But knowing when it's legal, knowing how to recognize it's a bad guy, knowing what you're going to go through if you ever do, or when you're facing it, is unknown territory for most people. And I concentrate there because actually I love the physical stuff. I have more fun there, but the need I see in the students is more in the mental stuff, and that's where I spend most of my time.
I totally agree. Because for me, what I see different. I kind of agree with Ian. I don't think that there is much difference. What I think is, it's more down to quality of instructor than the art, or what I tend to see more now is probably because I'm more full. I've got more experience, got more knowledge. I know what's good, what's bad in my own opinion, and so I can make better judgments now, more educated judgments on what I see in the martial arts world, just because I've been in it long enough. When I started out, I guess like everyone, you just it's pot luck whether you've chosen a good place or a bad one, or a good instructor or a bad one. It's just pure chance, because where'd you get the experience from to judge that? For me, the training I did under Jeff in the early days, I didn't realise was as hard as what people think it was, because I didn't know any different. And so you kind of, and I guess that's probably a great lesson that I've taken from it, is that you just think, if you don't know any different, then you don't, if no one tells you actually that's hot or that's cold, how do you know? So I couldn't really judge it against anything. So I just thought, this is what training is, and if I go to any karate class, this is what I'll get. And it was fairly tough, but my classes now aren't as tough in terms of the physical knocking each other out on a session by session basis, and that's a choice that I've made. But equally, there are plenty of classes and clubs and systems out there that do that. So I don't think that's different. I don't think it's really changed, because if you want to go out and find somewhere where you can train and fight, and get knocked out every session, there are plenty of clubs that still do that. I've just chosen not to. But equally, I know the value of it, and I know the value of that pressure and the stress. And so what I do is I try and find other ways to engineer that in the class to teach the students. I wouldn't say it's more intelligent teaching, because that would be totally disrespectful to my instructors. I think what we did in the day when I was studying under Jeff and the other instructors was very well measured, it was quite groundbreaking at the time, really, and it was done at the right level. It was certainly done. It's not broken me, so it was clearly done at the right level. I think it's just for me. I think there's other ways of doing it now, and for me, I don't need to go through it again, because we've done that. My students may need to. So, but I don't think there's a lot different. I think, as Ian said, more information, more access to it. It's easier to get to. I think there's also, because it's easy, there's a lot of dross out there as well. The difficulty is for the people moving into martial arts now, it's finding what really is good, what isn't. It's how do they know? That's the tricky bit. As we were talking earlier, Kris, it's how do good instructors, or who we would perceive to be good instructors, get above the noise of a lot of stuff out there that's not very good, and that's a challenge, I think. Exactly, yeah.
And how do we get naive consumers, people that coming into martial arts for the first time, to be able to recognize a good instructor? That's a challenge.
No, I was just going to say you're dead right. It is, but the information's there for anyone who wants to find it. Which is different. It is now. Yeah, but it wasn't before. Yeah.
Well, I think the mentality of students has changed greatly. I started training when I was 8, so that was about 20 years ago. Just the way people think now is quite different than when I was training. When I was training, there was almost kind of a boot camp feel to the class. Very hard body conditioning, very hard technique training as well. And you had this sort of fear in you, but it wasn't like a fear of like getting hurt. It wasn't like fear of death, that type of thing. It was more a fear of disappointing the instructor. Back then I had so much of a desire to want to really make the instructor proud of me, and I think that's something that's missing from this generation. When I was training, not just me, many students of my, all the classmates I had, we weren't afraid of a little pain. In fact, it came to the point where we wanted to feel that pain in order for it to really feel like a class, Yeah. So we have this one drill called Panther Walks, which pretty much just wipes people out, because that's pretty much right after a warm-up. That's the very last thing we do in warm-up, and it wouldn't feel like a complete class to me unless we did our Panther Walks. And I remember when I was 15, 16 years old, I was just dragging myself along the floor behind all the other senior instructors and senior students as well. They're just coasting all around the room, but I had to do them. It's like it wouldn't be a complete class without it. And these days, when I see my students, they'll give up. So it's difficult because I don't want to hit them. That's not my style. But I mean,
you speak as a man who has.
I think I've spoken to my friends and other instructors as well. I think we're amongst the last generations that actually had that type of discipline, even outside of martial arts, just discipline in the home and the family. Kids these days are more likely to challenge authority, and I think that's a difficulty that we're dealing with now in the 21st century. And because they challenge authority, they're not as likely to be disciplined, to just push themselves and train harder. When they think they can't do it, they give up, more or less. And then I tell my students this flat out all the time. I'm very honest with them. I just say, you don't realize you're capable of much more. It's just you're not pushing yourself hard enough. So that's the difference I see now compared to before. I'm not saying necessarily that we should go to a very boot camp style training where we're just yelling the ears off of everyone. It's I think there's a compromise in between, and again, the thing that I liked about instructors in the past, especially my instructors, the instructors that I loved the most were the ones that were when they were yelling at the class, they weren't really yelling at the class, they were kind of yelling at themselves. They pushed themselves so hard that it was hard not to be inspired by them, and that's what I strive to be in my class. But I see students again. I guess maybe I need more of that charisma, but students they'll throw in the towel a lot earlier these days than what I'm used to seeing, and they'll talk back, especially in the younger generations. I mean, once in a while you still find very dedicated students, the type that I'm used to seeing, but more and more you see students that will talk back. They'll right away say, "Oh, I can't do this." It's like, I don't want to do it, and that's a difficulty I'm trying to find an elegant solution to. But I think there is a good compromise. Before the class